Hello everyone, welcome to the yearly reading for 2024. Yay! Oh my gosh, 2023 is coming to a close. All right guys, this spread, as you can see, there's no cards here as far as the spread deck goes that I've been using because we're going by month this time. So we're going to go through each of the months of 2024. It's going to be 3 cards each. So it's going to be a large spread, guys, okay? That's 36 cards. I know I go like 25, 30 minutes on how many cards is in the weekly decks? 15. So I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. No promises. But we're going to run out of room. I tried to set this up where we're going to have enough room for 3 cards for each month. That's why the decks are actually not on camera. They're right next to me. They're pre-shuffled. And hopefully you can see the different months. Shout out to my runes for holding it down here. Perfect. Thought it was a nice touch. Sorry if it's distracting. But yeah, that's it, guys. Like I said, I don't want it to go super long. The first card out of the 3 is going to be a general energy of the month. The second one is going to be regarding our relationships. Doesn't have to be romantic. Could be our just any connections, how we relate to relationships, work relationships, and then the last one is going to be career impact, volunteer work, anything along those lines. Obviously, they can blur a little bit, but you know, I'm committed, as you guys know, especially people who've been following me for a while. I will just tell you the truth and what comes through. And don't forget, guys, this is a general reading. So this is for the collective in general. So a lot of things, I'm going to try to get more specific things, but take what resonates and leave the rest. And please like this video. Please share it with anybody that may need it, may need to hear the messages. Because I don't know about you guys, but 2023, 2022, 2021, and 2020 were a long cycle for me, for sure. But I know for a lot I'm part of the collective too. I know for a lot of you guys out there, it's been rough. So 2024, we are going into a numerology universal year 8. And that just makes me so happy. It tends to be the vibration of money, abundance, prosperity, power, empowerment, taking control of our lives, making more money than usual. Sometimes for people, the 8 doesn't manifest in a way where there is lots of money, but money is not necessarily an issue. I will say that. And speaking of manifest, it's definitely a year of manifesting what we truly desire, or putting that into motion in some type of way. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are. And let's, without further ado, let's begin. So like I said, I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. So I'm going to read as I pull the cards. And they're going to have to overlap because we're not really working with too much room. And I may have to adjust as we go along. Okay. January, never-ending story. Okay, interesting, because this is not what I got with the weekly. But, well, I mean, I was just pulling for the last week of December, but which ends kind of perfectly. You know, the last week was December 31st, right? And the next day is January 1st, right? So never-ending story. This is really all about patterns and recycling patterns. But I definitely do feel like a reflective energy from this. So I think it's a positive thing because, sorry guys if you hear an ambulance, by the way, I live in New York. I think most of you guys know that. I see it as a positive thing because it feels like a reflection, right? So we're looking at the patterns that we don't necessarily want to take with us, okay? So, I mean, sometimes this is typical where we spend the whole month really, you know, you guys know how like gym memberships are like, you know, the gym is going to be crowded, you know, for the whole month of January because people are still in that vibe of like the newness and you know, setting themselves up for the year. So it makes sense to me that this is coming up this way because we're still kind of setting ourselves up for the year, and we're saying, hey, what kind of patterns do I want to take into the year? What do I want to break? What do I want to stop doing? What do I want to break the cycle on? Those different things. And I know we didn't get through the rest of the reading, but it feels very optimistic, not because sometimes when I do get this card, it's kind of like the same story and us repeating the same patterns. But this to me is like more reflection on it, and really because it's the willingness to break it or do something different. So I see it as a really positive thing. Sorry, I'm having trouble off camera here. Okay, let's look at our relationships. So like I said, there has to be a little bit of an overlap. Okay, healing family issues. Okay, so it definitely might have to do something to do with healing family cycles, right? And generational trauma and things like that. So things that maybe go against the grain, against your tribe, right? Because it doesn't have to mean actual literal family. It could just mean what kind of goes against the norm. It could also be like what goes against society. You're breaking something and doing something different than what the actual norm is. And it does feel like a lot of, because it's under the relationship spot, it's kind of saying people, I hate to say this, but this is how it's coming through. And if I find better wording, I'll let you know, but almost being shunned by the people in your life because you're trying to break this cycle. So, or just feeling like left out, or like the black sheep, or, you know, just going against what is typically the norm, whether again, it's in your actual family or in a tribe or a community of some kind that you're involved with. But you have to kind of break out of that, and it definitely feels like, when I say shun, I don't mean like kicked out or anything along those lines. It definitely does feel more so like just maybe looking at you like you have 17 heads, or like saying, you know, maybe pushback of some kind, but nothing too crazy in my opinion, at least. Okay, what do we have here? We have Avenger, shadow attribute, resorting to violence in the name of a cause. Okay, so this, what's going on work-wise? What's going on in that realm? Okay, so we have, I'm not putting it upside down, but we have Avenger, and I pulled it in the shadow. And so that to me means that we are not picking our battles correctly. We're not, and again, because this is kind of in the career, work, money, that kind of thing, we're not picking our we're kind of nitpicking little things, it feels like. We're kind of going after the wrong things. We are just nitpicking small things when we should be really looking at more of like the bigger picture. So it's kind of like, if you, I don't know, this example comes to my mind. If you have like a toxic boss, instead of maybe like nitpicking and going, trying to fight them, maybe fight is such a strong word, challenge them, maybe the bigger picture would be just to move on and find another job. And so it's not necessarily about being the bigger person or whatnot, but it's kind of like saying like, use your energy correctly this month when it comes to work things, because something is telling me, and obviously this is only January, but we're going to need our energy for the rest of the year, and it's just not worth it anymore. Like the things that you are going after or worrying about or have disdain about, they're just not worth it. And so you're nitpicking the little things when we should be looking at the bigger picture, that maybe it is time to move on to something. And again, that's not as easy as people say, but like start thinking about it, because I did get that reflecting energy here, where this does feel like it's not like necessarily like an action type oriented month, but you are reflecting on what patterns you want to break. So you might be reflecting on what things you want to change at work, because the way that you're going about things, where the Avenger is kind of like, you're avenging something in the name of justice, but it's kind of like it's in the shadow. So it's like it's redundant, or it's falling on deaf ears, or it's almost like saying like Spirit is saying like you can't necessarily, the things that you're kind of going after, they can't, not that they can't be changed, but it's a minute point. Like it's not worth your time and energy is what Spirit is saying. So take that as you will. All right, let's move on to February. Okay, so is this, okay, so January, pretty decent. Okay, February, we have Unfinished Symphony. Oh gosh, guys, we gotta move this a little bit. Things are gonna get tight on here. Okay. unfinished symphony. So this is always about unfinished business, about things that you haven't completed. So it makes sense. January is a little bit more reflection on what we kind of want to break. Maybe part of the habits that you want to break is a procrastination issue, or finishing projects that maybe you haven't gotten to, I will say, like all last year. Or I just mentioned in the beginning of this video, I don't know about you guys, but I had a really tough 3 years. Okay, so 3+. So there may be something that maybe even dating back to like 2019, 2020 that you really are going to start picking up again, and actually completing. Maybe it's a home project, maybe it is a business idea, something along those lines. This is in the general slot, so it could bleed into any of those areas. Maybe it's a relationship that maybe fell off because something happened, and you want to pick it back up again. Could be a friendship, that kind of thing. We'll see what the relationship stuff comes up with, but this is the general energy. It could really bleed into any of those areas, or none of those areas. It really depends. You deserve love. Okay, so this is really a month of self-love for sure, and self-worth. So this is really reconnecting back to yourself, and really cultivating what you truly want and not settling for less. So some of you guys out there, this could be a month of, because it's actually next to the closing things up, this could be some endings for you guys, for relationships that, and again, it doesn't have to be romantic, just doesn't serve you anymore, or can't teach you anything anymore, or doesn't make you feel loved or worthy, obviously, from this card. So there could be something there, but it could also just be a heavy month on self-love and focusing on you. So it doesn't feel like a very social month. I know we have Valentine's Day in there, so sure, go out to like a social event, or if you're partnered with somebody, definitely spend time with your partner. But there is really going to be this underlying theme of making sure that you are receiving the love that you deserve, and also reciprocating that as well, right? Okay, what do we got going on next? So work, career, that kind of thing. Ooh, we have scribe in the shadow, altering facts or plagiarizing others' work. Okay, so we need to, this is interesting, because you guys know I always tell the truth, because, well, that's just the kind of reader I am. I don't want to sugarcoat anything, but I do feel like even some of the really negative, you know how I feel. I run pretty optimistically in general. But this definitely does feel like a call out in a way, where it's saying, we might be riding on the coattails of somebody else's work. And to be completely honest with you, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's horrible. Like, it doesn't feel like you're stealing somebody's work or taking credit for somebody's work. But it feels like, you know what it feels like? It feels like, how like in high school or college, you had to work in a group of people, and then usually people kind of fall into different roles in that. And sometimes there's one person doing more work than the other person. And that's just how it feels. And so it almost just feels like, not that you're going to be completely slacking off, but somebody else is kind of taking the extra momentum and doing more of the extra work, and kind of giving you a break, honestly, because it definitely does feel like relationships are going to be more of a highlight, and again, really could absolutely be relationship to self, like focusing more on your personal life basically in February than work life. So that makes sense to me. But it's almost like kind of letting other people take the lead, like especially if you work on teams, or if you're an entrepreneur, for example. This could be having somebody write the copy, like literally scribe, like write the copy for you, for your emails or something like that, and just like letting somebody else like kind of like take over the work, it feels like. But that's, again, because it does feel like it's more like personal work, personal life, personal relationship focused for February. Okay, hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Let's move on to March. General energy, serendipity, yay. Okay, Oh God, things are getting tight. You guys. Let's move this over. Okay, let's move July down. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, so serendipity is really about flow, how things just work in alignment, synchronicity, all those good things. That's how I interpret it. So that's a really good positive thing for March. I don't think I have much to say about it, except it does feel like things are flowing a lot better. And that has something to do with what you do in January and February, closing things up, really reflecting on what patterns you don't want to take with you. And so things are flowing better, because that's what happens when you get rid of things that don't serve you anymore. It allows the universe to bring you things that do. That's what it's all about, right? It's the universe works on in flow state. Okay, so we just have to work with it, right? And so we have to make the choices, and sometimes they're really hard choices, but you'll start seeing things, more synchronicities, more things happening for you. I hate the word luck, but things that may feel more so like luck. And I will say, because this is a universal year 8, that it might be financial, right? That things just kind of work itself out financial. So if you notice things, you feel like you can't make rent, and then all of a sudden, you get a check in the mail from some contract work you did like 5 years ago that they never paid you for. I don't know, making that up. So it just feels like everything flows in alignment, and you're definitely a lot more at ease, and things they don't feel so forced anymore as they have. I do feel in general you'll start feeling that for the turn of the new year for sure. But in March, you're really going to start to feel it. It's really going to be very apparent. Okay, so this is about, so we have children for our relationships. So it could be literal, right? So it could be a month for the people out there that are parents. And I count for parents, okay? So for babies count. This could be a month just heavily focused on those relationships, those our babies. But it could also be inner child work, okay? So it could be a lot of that stuff kind of coming up. But either way, it's either personally focused or focused on your children, which in a way, they're not an extension of you, but they are part, anybody that has kids know that you're responsible for them, and you're responsible for their parenting and mentoring, and their well-being and development, all that stuff. Parents, shout out to you. I know it's the hardest job in the world. So, and speaking of being at the hardest job in the world, it doesn't feel like it's hard. This month, it just feels like that's where the focus is. Okay, so just focusing on that. Even so, if it's more literal with focusing more on your children, can your relationship suffer? Potentially, but maybe suffer's too strong of a word. Like, it falls to the wayside. It's not the number one priority. It's not the number one focus. So there's something here where your children need you, or there's some inner child stuff that needs to be going on. If it's that, by the way, play, okay? And if you're saying to yourself, okay, well, how do I play? What are you talking about? Just focus on the serendipity, because that means that things happen a little bit more organically, and that things will come to you because things are on flow. So if there are opportunities and things that come up in March where they seem fun or new and playful, go for it. I will say that, go for it, because that will help nourish your inner child. And could actually be something as simple as like therapy or something. Okay, so we have another shadow. Okay, guys, so far we've had a lot of shadow in the work stuff. Addiction to self-pity. Okay, so this is really about being, let's move this over so we have room for April. Okay. Yeah, guys, things are getting crowded. Okay, so yeah, so the martyr is about really looking for sympathy from people, really looking for a break, really looking for something outside of us to make us happy. Maybe that's not the best way to say it, but I definitely do feel like there's this role kind of coming up with work, career, and that kind of thing. And so to me, I always associate the martyr with continuing to do things out of obligation and expecting appreciation on the other end, when in reality, you should be doing things from a more authentic place. And if you really want to do something for somebody, then you should do it from the goodness, with of your heart, and not necessarily just to get something from it. But however, we are in the work slot. So sometimes, guys, I've been there in corporate America, or what you have to do to get paid, you have to do things like that. And again, it's not bad or wrong. It's just you have to do it. And Spirit is coming through and is saying, I think it's getting to a boiling point at this point in March, where it feels like you just keep giving and giving and giving, and you're not getting what you're giving, essentially, what you're putting out. And it's getting to a point where you're going to stop going above and beyond and start realizing that and again, this is for some of you guys, I'm going to start realizing that maybe going out of your way or doing extra things, or they're just not going to be serving you, and it just feels like it's coming to a breaking point at that point in March. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys, but it just feels like you start putting a lot more boundaries down work-wise, and really start rearranging how you spend your time and your energy at work. So, okay, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, next, April. Fork in the road. Okay, so fork in the road is, we actually haven't had this card in a long time. Moving everything around. Okay, we haven't had this card in a long time. This is fork in the road, so this is about making decisions. Mostly we probably haven't had this because things have kind of like been the same. Same old story, things gradually getting better, so it's not like we have like a halt, right? Because the fork in the road is really kind of like a pretty split energy, where it's pretty obvious. It's like you can go down path A or you can go down path B. So it definitely feels like that. So April feels like a time of really big decisions. Now, it's in general, so it could really mean any area of your life, but it really does feel like there's a big decision that needs to be made. After what I just said in the last 2 months about work, in the last few months, honestly, could very well be a change in what you do for work, your role, company, moving to entrepreneurship, moving to something more impactful, that kind of thing. So I definitely do feel like there's a switch up in some type of way, but you have to make the decision. So as you guys know, use your intuition, but also use your discernment and figure out something that works for you, that feels good to you. But again, we're coming off of that serendipity, so things are moving in a little bit more of a flow type way. So I almost feel like the decision will be natural. Like, it doesn't necessarily feel like, just because it's fork in the road doesn't mean the decision is difficult to make. Like, I do feel like, it might be difficult to make in the way of like, it's a big life change, but not difficult in the way like that you don't know what to do as far as clarity goes, right? So I definitely do feel like we're getting there, and you're pretty much ready. You kind of know, you're working with intention. You know where you want to go by April. And again, it doesn't mean that the decision is not going to be hard to do, but the clarity piece is really, it's there. It's just about listening to it and actually making the decision, right? It is safe for you to love. Okay. So, yes, it absolutely is. So I definitely do feel like April feels like we're getting a lot of that spring energy. Makes sense. It's April, like newness. So there definitely does feel like there is a month here of, this is a really good month for our single people out there, because it definitely does feel like we're going out there as single people with a really good outlook and a really good interchange that we've been kind of working on, that we really do feel like our vibration is different. So therefore we can kind of meet a better match, if that makes sense. As far as people that are coupled up, it is safe for you to love, meaning could be more vulnerability in your relationship, could be more authenticity in your relationship, could be more connection in general. Just overall, just kind of feeling more safe to share in your relationship. So I see it as like a really positive, whether you're single or in a relationship. So it is a good month for intimacy, is a good way to put it. Okay, what do we have work-wise? What's going on? Okay, we have another shadow. Misuse, we have alchemist, misuse of the power and knowledge that come through spiritual practice. Okay, I don't love that the shadow came up in alchemist when we have a fork in the road as well, because that tells me, because alchemist is always about change, and because it's in the shadow, we might be afraid of the change, okay? So, misuse of the power and knowledge that come through spirit. Yeah, okay. Don't take, guys, these are oracle cards for a reason. I don't, some of them are literal, some are not, but the intuitive feeling that I'm getting is that we are going to be having a hard time pulling the trigger, moving towards the direction that we want to go with the decision. Like I said, the clarity is there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that the decision is not going to be do I want to say tumultuous? Is that really dramatic? It just might be something that you're hesitating on. I will say, but again, it's not because of clarity. It's, you want this, you need this, your soul desires this, but it's really, really kind of hard to move in that direction. So I will say that it's under work, career, that kind of thing. So this tells me that it very much will be a decision with career in some way, shape, or form. Like I said, it did come in general. So it could be anything, but I would say for the majority of you guys out there in the collective, it's definitely going to be work-wise. So what I can say that I'll leave you with this before I move on to May is, what your soul desires. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. And you can do hard things. Okay. I'll add that. All right. So let's move on to May. You got this, guys. All right, sorry. So I have one more last thing to say. Okay, we have yin. Okay, so May is more flow. So this tells me that you guys you do make the decision that's best for you, from at least most of you guys, because it feels in flow. Because it's almost impossible to make the wrong decision in a way, because it just feels so forced. And it's like your body just really does not want to do it. It's just, you'll be almost like fighting yourself to make, the quote unquote wrong decision or misaligned decision, right? So I definitely do feel like a lot of you guys are, staying right there in that energy of yin. And so things are just flowing and working themselves out. And the 2 is jumping out to me. 2 is relationships, partnerships, and a little bit of change. So it makes sense. So as far as like the partnerships things go, it feels good. Again, this is the general energy. It could be any area, but I will say our relationships do feel good this month. So let's pull one card here and see. Okay. Well, look at that. Can this literally mean weddings for some of you guys? Maybe. This could be attending weddings. Makes sense, right? Isn't April the start of wedding season? But it definitely, wedding always just means like a consummation of something, or solidifying a commitment of some type, a celebration within your relationship. So like I said, that 2 energy makes me feel good. It stood out to me right away. It definitely does feel like it's a good month for relationships in general. So could be going to a deeper level of commitment, could just be celebrating your relationship or other people's relationships. Guys, doesn't have to be romantic. This could be celebrating, maybe you have a better relationship with a parent or a child or a sibling or something like that. So it just feels good that we're celebrating the people in our lives, and we're celebrating those relationships in some type of way. So that's really good. So far, I would say May is a pretty great month for a lot of us. Okay, we have something in the light. Yay. Okay, we have artists. We have expressing a dimension of life that is just beyond the 5 senses, inspiring others to see life symbolically. Okay, so we feel really creative. We feel in control. We feel like we can actually express ourselves. This is in work, career, entrepreneurship, impact, or whatever you want to call it. So that means that we're moving into, and this could be part of the decision that you made in the previous month, that we're moving into something a little bit more creative that gives you a little bit more freedom, creative expression, that kind of thing. I definitely am feeling a joyful type feeling. So it's definitely, like I said, I trust you guys. Okay, you guys are going to make the decision that's definitely aligned with your soul, definitely intuitively guided. Okay, so, and that brings you to more of a place where you can be more artistic and have more reign over what you're doing in life as far as like impact, that kind of thing. Could be something as simple, like, again, the decision doesn't have to be huge. I know I used like the tumultuous word, but it doesn't necessarily have to be huge, okay? So It could just mean like moving roles that will bring you a little bit more flexibility or something like that. So I see it as good. May is amazing. Okay, so lots of celebrating, lots of flow, and lots of creative expression. I mean, what else can you ask for, right? Okay, June. Okay, guys, here we go, between worlds. Okay, so even though I feel like we're passing that threshold, if you guys saw the weekly for the last week of December, it definitely didn't, I kind of closed with it with saying, no, I'm sorry, I think it was actually, was it? No, I think it was the last week. No, it was the monthly. Oh God, I'm getting confused. In one of the last in one of the last readings, it definitely did feel like, oh, sorry, there's a train that went by too. Sorry. It feels like the energy is going to change from December to January, but it doesn't necessarily feel like you're going to see things be action oriented and actually see things in the physical, in the flesh, that have changed. This, to me, June, is like you'll actually see the evidence of the change. Not just feel the energy, you'll actually see the evidence of the change. That's the best way I can put it with the Between Worlds, is that it definitely does feel like it is more so of the new life. Even though this is saying Between Worlds, it definitely feels heavy on the new life kind of situation. So there's this newness that just comes through, and it's not, I don't want to read this as I usually do, is like a limbo, like saying like, oh, now you're stuck in the middle. I actually feel it a little bit more on the pink flamingo side, where, because it's jumping out to me, where it's saying, okay, you've kind of now really seen the fruits of your labor, essentially, of like all of these years, like the accumulation of your healing journey, whatever you were on, the last few years, you're actually going to see it in physicality in June. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, love yourself first. Okay, another self-love month. Okay, so interesting. I didn't really expect this for the year, but I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. I guess more so like heavily, I mean, it is, basically, I do feel like work stuff is changing, that we're moving obviously to more like a creative expression kind of way, and we're putting boundaries down and that kind of thing. And but it's interesting that there is a lot of focus of getting back to ourselves and making sure we're okay, and that's really great, because again, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but if I'm going through it, somebody else is going through it. It's been a rough few years, okay? So I know out there in the collective, 2020, I mean, come on, look what happened in 2020 in itself, all right? So we all, starting from 2020, what a year. But loving yourself is really going to be a key priority, and that is going to dictate how you connect with other people, how you relate to other people. Putting yourself first, there was a couple of things I said about boundaries earlier, making sure your boundaries in place and all that good stuff. There's not too much more I can actually say about that. I think you guys get that. And then as far as work goes, we have teacher. So, oh, I didn't read it, sorry. Ability to communicate knowledge, experience, skill, or wisdom. Great. Okay, we have teacher energy. So you're ready to teach somebody. So you definitely move into that archetype for sure. So I'm glad that we're getting stuff in the upright position now, because that's interesting. We've had that, everything kind of accumulates up, those few months kind of accumulate up into that change. So hopefully we'll get more light ones going forward, but it seems like we're standing in our power, right? And that's actually another good way to kind of describe that Between Worlds, is like, it's going from, and I've mentioned this before, a surviving to a thriving. It's actually going to feel like we're thriving in June. It's going to really, yes, feel like it, but also we're going to see the fruits of that labor of thriving, if that makes sense. So yes, it could also be, maybe more financially lucrative, just because I'm going off of that 8, we're in an 8 universal year. So it could be related to that, or, again, some people that have the 8, experience it. Some people, we all have the 8 because it's universal, but some people experience the 8 a little bit differently. Like, for example, I had an 8 personal year this year, and this past year, 2023, and I did not have a good financial year. okay, but I had more of an empowerment year, if that makes sense. So anyway, and moving closer and closer and healing and all that stuff. So that to me brought me more power. So anyway, we're going to see the fruits of the labor basically in the thriving. Also feel it, but up until then, I would say in the start of January we feel it. But this is where we see the fruits of our labor. And the teacher is just like, I'm getting a lot of joy from this as well, just like I got from the artist. So enjoying teaching others what you know, or teaching people your craft. Like it almost just feels like just being very eager to pass on your knowledge and to spread what you know. And the teacher always mimics the student, right? I feel like they're like interchangeable. So, and because it's kind of like between worlds where we're shifting, it's kind of like you were the student, now you're the teacher. Okay, so teaching what you know and what you've learned, especially over the last few years. So, okay, should I drink water and do a check-in of how long this video actually is? Sorry, I need to go in focus here. Okay. All right, we're at 36 minutes, not bad. We're halfway through. I'm gonna try to speed things up, but let me take a sip of water. Okay, guys, let's go. July. TikTok. Okay, so TikTok is about the timing being perfect. Sometimes it's about running out of time, but that's not what I'm getting. Again, I read intuitively. So this is about perfect timing, divine timing. The timing is right. So the timing is right to do something, and not just something. I feel like a lot of things, right? Because again, this is in general, so it could be a few different areas, but it definitely just feels like it's just time. It's time to do something. It's maybe time to leave your job. It's maybe time to move to the next step in your relationship. Maybe it's just time to move, different things like that. So it's just time. And again, because we're kind of coming off a lot of these cards that really hint at flow, it feels like you'll just feel that, right? It just feels like it's like a natural progression of where you're going in life. So it's not like, hearing this, maybe you look into moving somewhere, it's going to be something natural. Like it's going to organically kind of come up for us and just feel like a natural next step. But the timing is I almost want to say impeccable. Chemistry. Okay, so high chemistry doesn't. How do I say this? Sometimes, and I actually haven't said it in a while, but sometimes when we think of high chemistry, we think of, like I say, it's better to be compatible with somebody and do like a slow burn than it is to have chemistry with somebody right away. Because sometimes that just means more lust. It could be triggering a trauma bond, like things like that. But I will say this, I'm not getting that latter with this. It feels like chemistry in a positive way, in a way that's healthy, in a way that's non-toxic. So if my single people, if you've been not having the best luck and you feel like you don't have chemistry with anybody, definitely feel like you're meeting somebody in July. It's a good month to do so, summertime. Really high chemistry and vibing with your partner if you're partnered. Lots of flirty energy. A lot of chemistry. I have to watch what I say. It's YouTube. Okay. So I will say that. So it is definitely a more social month because, again, this could be broader. This could be just having really good chemistry with people, flowing with people. Okay. It could even be like people at work where you just, maybe you have your own business and you hired people and you have good chemistry with them. That kind of thing. So maybe you're an actor and you got, casted in a play and you have good chemistry with your co-star, whatever. It just feels like Spirit is giving us really good relationships where we vibe. And not vibe in a way of like soulmates or anything, but we just really kind of get along with people and it just feels effortless in that way. Okay, what do we have work-wise? Oh, spoke too soon. Okay, shadow and the mediator, negotiating with an ulterior motive or hidden agenda, either personally or professionally. Okay, negotiate. Okay, so this is a little bit, it's not bad because it's almost like it's saying that we're being a little bit manipulative. And usually when we hear that word, um, we think, oh, it's really negative. We're trying to get people to do what we actually want them to do. Well, what we're trying to get people to do what we want them to do, almost like a puppet master, but it doesn't feel like that. It's such a bad example because I'm not sitting here telling you guys that you're master manipulators this month, but there is a way in which you do try to get what you want and succeed at it, but um, again, it doesn't necessarily feel like super negative. I would just say watch your energy around that because if you think about it, the alchemist could also is technically manipulation. Like you manipulate energy, right? And that's kind of what it feels like. It's just saying, just be careful that you don't necessarily veer off into that territory where it does feel manipulative in a negative way, or if it feels you're twisting things too much, or you're trying to get your way to a point. Because you can ask, like, I will say this, in July, work-wise, you can definitely get your way. You can definitely, because I definitely do feel like a control factor that could kind of take over. So if we let that kind of get out of control, we can get to a place where we don't necessarily make the best decisions or have the best intentions anymore. Because, okay, so that's what I want to say. The intentions are positive, because with the bad manipulator, our intentions are not so good. Our intentions are good here. Just be careful of how you go about it. Be careful of your words and be careful of your actions, and just be careful that you don't veer off into that territory. That's all July energy is really saying. But I do, and if it's done in a way that's imperfect, okay, we have that perfect timing, like it could obviously be pertaining to that. If it's done in a way that is, do I want to say ethical or moral, or, in the quote unquote right way, in a positive way, in a good intentional place, then that's amazing. And you will get your way, is basically what Spirit is saying. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Okay, we're getting crowded again. Okay, general energy for August, go the distance. Okay, so this is about going all the way. This is about, let's move December down here. This is about going the distance. This is about not quitting. This is about, because I definitely do feel like this energy of maybe wanting to give up. But again, the timing is perfect. You're in a good direction now. Okay, so to me, it feels like things might get a little hard in some type of way. Again, this could be in any area of your life. Maybe it is a move, right? And things can get really hard. But Spirit is saying go the distance, okay? And again, I think you guys will naturally feel this because we're really in more of a flow state. So, there's no questioning whether, when this, hopefully you guys will bookmark this and maybe come back to it every month. But when the time comes, I think you'll understand what Spirit is referencing, because this is really about going the distance and not giving up. Because again, I really feel like back in April, the clarity piece is really there. So you know where you want to go. It's just hard getting there, is basically what August is trying to say. So just keep going the distance and keep going. So there might be, I don't want to say breakdown, but there might be points where you feel like giving up. And that's okay. And that's part of the journey. And you might just feel exhausted. You just might feel, hopefully there's some self-care cards. I know we've been doing like a lot of self-love and self-worth. That doesn't necessarily mean self-care, like slowing down. So far there hasn't been like any balance cards or anything like that. So hopefully, because of this energy now, we have in the next few months some balance or some pausing cards or something like that, because it does feel like we're really, going. Honestly, it's probably, if I could predict anything, guys, I haven't seen these cards. I would say probably not, because this is an 8-year where things accelerate. And my last readings, I think for both the weekly and the monthly, there have been a lot of acceleration stuff going on. So, yeah, so it makes sense to me that maybe I haven't necessarily felt like it, like I said, I'm definitely getting this flow feeling. So it may not feel like you're running so fast because it feels so easy, if that makes sense, or it feels with ease. So this is kind of the first month where it feels like you don't want to keep going. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean physically exhausted. Okay, it could be emotionally exhausted or hitting, but not even exhausted. It could just feel like we're just hitting, maybe not hitting a wall, but just feeling like we can't move forward in some type of way. It could be an obstacle of some kind. Again, it doesn't have to mean exhaustion. I was just giving that example. But we really do need to keep moving forward. So I think I beat that with a dead horse. So I think you guys understand. Relationships is release your ex. Okay, so definitely for some of us, an ex could be coming back into our lives. We could be finally doing the work to kind of release an ex in some type of way, whether they actually physically come back or we do it in therapy or something like that. Or something happens where we kind of close that chapter, but lots of closing up kind of coming up here. Could this be related to the go the distance? Potentially, this could be a roadblock in some type of way where maybe you had like a really bad breakup and all of a sudden they show up this month and it kind of messes things up, right? It kind of messes with your head a little bit or something like that. But maybe you're in a relationship and the things that happen with your ex really affect the relationship. And this month it feels like that comes to a close. So I definitely do feel like it's in a positive way that you're releasing, whether, the energy that was attached to your past relationships or who you've been in your past relationships or something like that. So, and it will positively spill over into any other relationships that you have. Doesn't have to be romantic. It feels like it could bring positive relationships even to like your friend group or your family. Maybe your family was concerned that you were maybe too hung up on your ex or something like that, or still affected by it in some type of way. And then, and then you're able to kind of release it this month. So, okay, I think that makes sense for you guys. Okay, we have damsel in the shadow, waiting for a knight to provide for your seduction by romantic. Okay, so this is really waiting around for, I don't love this card, I'm not gonna lie. Especially this, speaking of what shocks me, this shocks me because this is like the damsel could be a positive thing, but it could also be a negative thing. And it does feel a little bit negatively because it's in the work slot. Okay, so I will say that work, career, entrepreneurship. So it's almost like we're looking at the shadow of ourselves and saying like, what am I waiting around for other people to do? Especially like with work. This is a big month for entrepreneurs where we really need to take a cold, hard look at ourselves and be like, okay, what am I waiting around for? What am I not going the distance for, right? And so, guys, entrepreneurship is hard, okay? Starting your own business is hard. Going off on your own is hard. But it feels like we're waiting around for somebody else to do it for us or waiting for something. But again, that go the distance is saying you kind of have to push through and kind of take control. Because they're kind of almost like conflicting energies in a way, because damsel is like, oh, I'm just waiting for somebody to save me. I'm just waiting for something. I'm just waiting. And it's and go the distance and saying no. Okay, you have to keep going forward, and you have to go forward in a way that's that you feel that you're in control. And I'm saying that for the 8 because the 8 is an accelerated energy. It's you go after what you want. It is definitely a faster type energy than we're coming off of the 7 of 2023. So it's very unlike us, not feeling like ourselves to just kind of be waiting around for something. Could be another example, we give you work-wise, where we're just waiting for XYZ to happen to get our promotion or something like that, and we're just kind of waiting around, where the go the distance is kind of like, no, if you know what you want, you must, go forward and maybe look for another job or ask, be assertive and ask for the promotion or something like that. So I don't love the damsel. So I'm not going to, I'm going to say August is a month of realization of that because it does turn around. As long as we're able to look at that, as long as we're able to say, oh my gosh, what am I waiting to be saved about, where I can take initiative, where I can go the distance with. Okay, so it's not the greatest month for work, but it's the greatest month for aha moments or epiphanies or the start of taking control of things again. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. September. Why? Okay, speaking of reflection, shadow work, asking yourselves the hard questions, we have why. This is really about self-awareness, asking yourselves the hard questions. So this is really, it feels like just like a check-in almost, and just like reflecting on the year so far and why are we doing the things that we're doing. So it is another thing kind of with January's energy. We kind of started out that way, where it's interesting. I thought that maybe we would get it in June, but there's too much awesome stuff going on in May, June, because June is kind of like halfway through the year, and sometimes we start feeling it halfway through. But it looks like it does happen in September, where we start to like check in. Okay, so checking in with, you know, am I intentional? Am I being super intentional about what I'm doing in all areas of life? Why am I doing it? What is, you know, going back to your why. So it definitely does feel like more impact oriented and more self-awareness oriented, and just really questioning things in a healthy way. And I think that's just really good in general. So definitely questioning. And again, this is in general, so it could be in all areas of your life, any of them, but also all of them. Okay, so just the reason that happens, guys, is because we need to make sure we're in alignment. Okay, so it's a positive thing in my opinion. Okay, let go of control issues. Okay, what did I just say? I just said back in July, it definitely does feel like there is like this need to control coming over us. What I will say is August does feel like a lot of shadow work, because obviously we're releasing our ex, we're doing a lot of work there. But I will say from July, August, and then September, we kind of have to fight those control issues in a way. Especially when it comes to our relationships, where we're kind of trying to dictate not how our partner feels or how other people feel, but more so trying to control the situation. So anytime there's any of that energy, I always say it's really about accepting and surrendering to what is, you know, let go, let God kind of deal. But it's definitely getting to a point in September where it gets to a breaking point, and it gets to a point where you're saying, oh my God, I'm trying to control everything and it's not working. It's not working in my relationships. It's just not working at all. And so there has to be a change. And again, there's a lot of reflection this month with that why card. So it makes sense that we would have a card like this in our relationships. All right, let's see work. Upside down, student, arrogance in the pursuit of destructive knowledge, unwillingness to translate knowledge into action. Okay, so we're not being a good student, basically, is what this is saying. So not gonna lie, guys. Like I said, I'm always honest with you guys. It definitely feels like some arrogant energy kind of coming through. So so we had the teacher and we had it in a positive and we were super excited to share our knowledge, but now we're in September, we're in this energy and we don't want to learn anymore. Like a good reflection question actually for this month would be, why are we not open to learning? Why are we less curious? How could we be more curious? How could we be more open and open-minded? So there definitely is this need to be that in that energy. And this is in career, work, entrepreneurship, impact, volunteer work, whatever you want to call it. So we're not willing to learn. We're not willing to be open. We're not willing to be curious. So we need to look at that. And again, I'm not too worried with these two issues. So we've got some shadow work happening in August, September, like really looking at ourselves. Doesn't shock me because so far, really starting from starting like really from the beginning of the year, maybe February, that we're really working on ourselves, our self-worth and our self-love, which is great. But I definitely do feel a heavy emphasis on personal development this year. But it comes to accumulation for September. Because it really gets to a point where we really, really need to look at ourselves and we really, really need to work on ourselves. So, keep those two issues that are coming up in mind. And as long as the intention is there to work on things, then you should be good and golden. Okay, October. to the sea. That's what I love. Okay, so we have a couple of rough months there. That's okay. And what I mean by rough is that we're just working on ourselves, looking at our shadows, and that's fine. Okay, that's a great thing. Now we have October. To the sea is the ultimate flow card. We have the 7. So things are just going to flow this month. I know I keep saying that. I know March is a big flow month as well. And then we have May is another one. I would say October is another one. Okay. So that's the 3rd one. So, but even though I do feel this general energy of things being a little bit more flowy and ease, this year, thank goodness, thank you God, God is good. But this is just saying everything is going to be more in flow. Okay, so there's actually not too much I can say about that, but I would say all areas of life. Reconciliation. Okay, so this could definitely be what I definitely got right away as I'm pulling this is could be a friend group, could be a friend that maybe you haven't talked to in a really long time, that somebody makes an appearance. This could be reconciling with an ex. This could be reconciled with an estranged family member. There's something there of coming back together. And I'll tell you this, it does feel positive. Okay, this could also mean another meaning if we're going out into the real. Going on beyond this life. It could be a past, as someone from your past is returning to your life. Yes, could be this life, but could also be a past life as well. So you could feel maybe like a karmic connection, which isn't so great, or somebody that could feel like a soulmate coming in. But mostly it's somebody that on a more practical level is somebody from your past life. From your current life. But again, could be some kind of past life connection coming through as well. And again, I don't feel like it's negative. I know the karmic connection is not great, but I do think that would be just a few of you guys. Okay, so we have detective in the shadow. Okay, falsifying information. Okay, guys, I don't love this either. I'm just being honest. Where the shadow of the detective, we're not being curious enough. Okay, so I just mentioned that in September. So we're still riding off of that. Okay, so as far as work goes. So things are flowing a little bit more. So I will be shocked if November comes up with another similar theme. But it does feel like we're kind of resolving it finally in October. So it's bleeding into October with that lack of curiosity, that lack of open-mindedness, the lack of really finding the truth. So there is some arrogance that's kind of coming over, but I feel good about October because we have the flow card. Okay, so I think it's going to naturally resolve itself, and things are going exactly how they're intended to go. So, and again, it's in work. So something's going on work-wise here where we're just not being open-minded and we're just not being curious. So an example would be maybe you are an entrepreneur and you've been doing something some way and you're being a little hard-headed about it, where you're saying, no, I know this is going to work. I know this is going to work. And somebody's telling you, no, maybe it's a mentor, this way is definitely going to be better. This will bring you more success. And we're just being kind of like hard-headed about it. So I will say this is the month where I feel like it does kind of change, and we kind of try to see the other way, that kind of thing. But not gonna lie to you guys, feel some arrogance type energy kind of like coming through, and that's also off of the control issues as well. So yeah, again, some shadow work stuff still poking its ugly head, right? Okay, November, we have message in a bottle. Okay, our communication is going to be stellar in November, which is great. So we're communicating well, and I would say all areas of life. And so I see that as obviously like a very positive thing. So that bleeds over to relationships, to work, personal lives, that kind of thing. So we're just communicating really wonderfully. There's not too much I can say there. Make the effort. Okay, so there is definitely effort that needs to be made on your end, whether it's in a relationship, whether you are dating, whether this is family relationships or friends. It definitely does feel like, and in good nature, like it feels like not like overextending yourself for somebody that it will not reciprocate. This just like, it almost just feels like a lot of our friends are going to need us this month. A lot of people are going to need more from us, basically. And so we need to kind of like make the effort and reach out, or like it almost just feels like Spirit is asking us to make sure we're doing everything we can to sustain the relationships and also create more of a bond in the relationships. But you have to make the effort. So it's like a conscious effort to do so. So it has to be, even though it is in the, oh no, it's in the, okay. So I thought for a second this was to the sea. I was going to say, and again, we do have that flow energy coming in and out, but overall pretty steady. When I say flow, and I say ease, I don't necessarily mean that it's easy. I just mean that it feels, the best way I can kind of describe it is not forced, right? And so when this is saying make the effort, it's not about forcing it. It's about actually consciously making a decision to keep your relationships alive, to keep your relationships well and good, okay? And so that's what this is about. This is really about making like a conscious decision. And our communication is stellar, so it doesn't seem like it's a problem. So this is a really good month for relationships. But again, you might be the one having to reach out, but and people may need more from you, but that's okay because you have that energy and you have more to give. And it's just really about making that conscious effort. We have the Saboteur, highlight your fearless self-empowerment and the changes it would bring to your life. And it's in the light, exactly. Thank you. Because I got a little worried there with September and October and about us like not changing and not like moving in the direction of being open and curious. And this is Saboteur, but it's not in the shadows. That means we're stopping sabotaging ourselves. So we've changed, definitely. So if you're hitting a wall here in September and October with work, I would say actually August, September, October, you stop sabotaging yourself in November, okay? And things start working out for you, okay? Things start getting better for you, okay, work-wise. So congrats, you've done the work and you've shifted things. So that's great. Okay, guys, last month. Thinker. Okay, so I find it very interesting that we're ending the month and we kind of started the year with really reflecting on patterns and breaking those patterns. Now we're thinking in a more logical way, because that's, to me, January was more of like a more emotional or spiritual way. This feels like a little bit more of a logical and analytical way. So we really kind of are ending the year really thinking about, like, this is definitely like planning ahead, but also just making sure things are practical in our lives and things are tangible and things are more grounded. And just really, like, there really is this planning energy that's really kind of coming through. So maybe planning for 2025. It's like so hard to kind of like think about, but because it's not even 2024 yet and there's 12 months or whatever. But this is really about making things practical, bringing them to the ground, having more grounded ideas, more analytical. And I think it's interesting because, again, this year is the 8. I know I keep saying it, but yes, it's manifesting energy. Yes, it's prosperity energy. All of that good stuff. But hold on, the cards fell. This is about being more practical with it. Okay, so how do I really bring my manifestations into this world? Okay, and everything that you've learned over the year is really going to help us nail that down. Basically, it's really going to help us accumulate that. Maybe accumulate's not the right word. Help us sort it out to really have an idea, because 8 is really about practicality, honestly, because it's great if you have an idea, but if you don't execute on it, it's not going to work. Nobody's going to see your work. Nobody's going to know about it, right? So it's really important that we take more of a logical approach this December. And I definitely do feel like it's the accumulation of the year that really kind of brings us to this point. how could we be more practical, and how, like, I could almost see, like, if you did start a business this year, December would be like a year to like really look at the books and really like be, okay, how can I scale this? How can I really make this work? How could I really put this out into the world in a mass quantity or something like that? So it almost just feels like that kind of energy. Okay, we have attraction when it comes to relationships. You attract romantic love by enjoying this moment fully. Awesome. Okay, so it just feels like another month that was similar to, is it this one? Yeah, July. So another heavy kind of chemistry month for December. So I feel like our relationships are really good and we're ending them really strong. So there is a huge attraction. And again, doesn't have to be romantic attraction. So if you've been having a difficult relationship with family, it definitely feels like you're more attracted to them, which is, it's during the holidays. So that's really positive. I will say, doing all these readings during these holidays the last few months, it surprises me more so around the Christmas holidays, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, all that stuff. I thought more shadow stuff was going to come up, more inner child stuff was going to come up, and it didn't. So it definitely does feel like, and I love that we started the year with, potentially like healing family stuff. So that feels really positive, and it's kind of ending in a way where it's like, yeah, we feel more attracted to family. We feel more like we want to be around them, and we feel more, positivity associated with them in some type of way. So, and again, it doesn't actually necessarily mean that they changed, but you kind of changed maybe your attitude about it, or did a lot of shadow work around it or something like that. But I definitely do feel like attraction is strong for a lot of people in a positive way, like not in like a trauma bond kind of way, but in a positive way. So, and people are attracted to you. I will say that, like, people are very attracted to you. So you've done a lot of work over the year, and people want to be around you as well, right? Not necessarily you want to be around them. All right, work. Orphan child, independence based on learning to go it alone, conquering fear of survival. Okay, this is an interesting one for the work, because this is saying, okay, I can do it. I can do it on my own. I can really, really do this. And it's ending strong, which is great. I know I've mentioned entrepreneurship a few times, and the reason I did is because I just know with this 8 energy, a lot of people are going to be getting back into their businesses, working more solo. Even if it's like working for a company, but you want to be more autonomous, like, less meetings, whatever it actually is. There is this autonomy that kind of comes with the orphan child, but, and again, this is in the light, yay, another light card, but it's you're conquering your fears of kind of going it alone in a positive way, right? So again, that could mean all different types of things when it comes to career, money, that kind of thing. But, you can do it, and you can do it well. And that's it. There's not too much I can say about that. What I will say here, okay, I mentioned this about halfway through the reading, just to kind of like close things up. There is no really balance cards or more heavy so on, balancing like the masculine and feminine. So I will say this. I will take that as a really positive thing in the way of, we keep the balance throughout the year. Even though this is acceleration energy, we really, there was one card in here, I already forget where it was, that, yeah, we are taking care of, we're working on our self-love, our self-care, our self-worth, all of that stuff, but it doesn't feel like we're getting to a place of burnout, like where we feel like we're working in extremes. It feels a lot more even, and that's why these cards aren't coming up, because it feels like Spirit has no reason to say that, because we don't need balance, because we have balance, right? And so I feel like that's like a really good thing, a really positive thing. So good job, guys. So no burns out. Most of us are not going to burn out this year, which is amazing, especially because it's a heavy accelerated year. So good job, guys. So whatever. My theory is that we're coming off of a 7 universal year, and so it's been really slow for a lot of people. So we have the energy. That's basically what I'm trying to say. We've banked the energy. The other thing too is like the balance with like masculine and feminine. So it's like we're like being versus doing is amazing. None of that is really here. So again, that's another indication of our balance being positive, and that we're we're doing it well throughout the year. And the other thing too is that I don't have any be still cards, present moment cards, breathe cards, anything like that. So anything asking us to take a break. Okay, if anything, we have go the distance and accelerating even more in August. So that tells me we're not burnt out, because usually when a card like that kind of comes through, that means that we're really burnt out and we need a break. So all I want to say is congrats, guys. Congrats on finding balance. Whatever we did in the last few years to really balance our balance issues is really, really positive. The other thing I'm really shocked at is like all of the shadow cards. So there is some shadow work in here, okay? So August, September, October. So there's some shadow work. So I did reference to a lot of like career stuff, impact, volunteer work, that kind of thing. However, these shadows could be money stuff, okay? So I just want to add that in, okay? I didn't specifically say that in the reading, but again, it is an 8 year. So that could very much, and it is in the slot where I put career and money together, where these could be affecting you. So for example, the damsel, you could be waiting around for a paycheck and then say to yourself, no, I want to be in charge of my own money. I need more of a gig that has, that's commission based, uncapped, whatever. So I do want you to keep that in mind as well. But otherwise, those are the things that kind of shocked me a little bit that I'm actually happy about. But I'm excited for this year, that's for sure. And I hope you guys are excited as well. And I hope you enjoyed this reading. Please put any comments down below. Sorry it was a long one, but I hope that you guys do come back to this card, to this reading later in the year as the months kind of go by, to really kind of check in on the energy and see how they align with you, and how they transpire and manifest in your life in these particular months. So guys, have a wonderful new year. Happy new year. Happy 2024. And as I continue to grow this channel, I swear the aesthetics are going to be better. The videos are going to be better. Just give me some time and things will only go up from there. All right, guys, have a beautiful, beautiful year. And I'll see you next time on the weeklies and the monthlies. Bye.